I would say.
Interesting. My buddy says it unequivocally. Like, he's like, high school.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
no way. Like, I could care less about going back to high school. I'm going back to college.
I
Like,
got
no
you.
doubt. And, a lot of people would go back to high school more than you think. I mean, college years are so much fun, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't. I mean, I didn't have a bad experience in high school either. Like, this isn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little, but I didn't get, like, picked on or anything like that. I had a big buddy.
I got you. It helps to have those, man.
So
helps to have those.
So it's not like I had a bad experience. Like, I liked high school. It was cool. But I mean, college was way. I wouldn't. No, I don't need. My buddy has always said, "Man, I wish I could go back to high school. Wish I could go back to high school." I'm like, no way, man.
See,
but he played football and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I think that maybe made a little bit difference between the two of us.
I just feel like college, I was a lot more busy, whether it was like working in the summer or whether it was like, prepping for the football season. Like, I didn't get a lot of time to just kind of sit and do whatever. Now, like, after practice, I would and play video games. I was probably supposed to be doing homework. Like, that was my time to kind of do whatever. But I felt like I had a lot more free time, a lot more just hanging out time in high school. So I'd definitely go back to high school.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk more about school. Hopefully the kids got back to school well and good first day. Most of the area, St. Johns County goes back next week. So our kids will be going back next week. And hope everybody's safe and getting through everything that you got to get through. It's a different world the last couple of years going to school for sure. But back to school is cool, at least for now. But it's not cool out, that's for sure. Holy cow, it continues to be really warm out in the Jags practice field. It was. Maurice Jones-Drew was out there today. Good to catch up with Mojo for sure. He was kind of giving us the background on a lot of different teams. Like, he's really impressed with Matthew Stafford out in L.A. And Mojo does the Rams games. He's on their broadcast team. So he thinks Stafford has looked really good. He's had Najee Harris in Pittsburgh, looks really good. So he's been around to some of these camps, and interesting. One of those I just saw on the TV as I was down in the sports office. Should there be concern about Zach Wilson? I guess some not so great practices for Wilson. Should there be concern this early for Zach Wilson if you're a Jets fan?
Not so much, no. I mean, he's, I think it's taken him longer to pick up to the NFL game, the speed and all that stuff. But he has had some really bad practices back-to-back weeks. I think today he finished the drive on an interception that left a lot of people wondering, like, why we take this guy number 2. So when you see Trevor Lawrence in 4K doing his thing at the Jaguars quote-unquote scrimmage/practice, and then you see, Zach Wilson not having any of those moments yet, because I haven't seen anything from the Jets PR department or social media department that would echo, hey, Zach Wilson's having some good throws at practice. So right now I think they're just to the point where it's like, all right, let's get this kid acclimated, let's give him some confidence, and let's go from there.
Yeah, listen, I know this is fun around here, that you'd love to be able to kind of poke at the Jets. And if I was a Jags fan, I maybe would do the same in that respect, like on social media. Look what you got. You take it kind of like I do with the Yankees, right?
Sure.
When you get your chance to do it, you do it. Because you knew the winning streak was coming sooner or later. And so I can see that. But I hesitate to do that from this chair. Because, listen, we've seen a rookie roller coaster out there for Trevor Lawrence at times. The last week was kind of choppy. Last week wasn't great until Saturday and Sunday, where he really hit stride. But remember, go back to last Monday, and it was 3 picks, and then there was a pick almost every day. Even the coaches and him said there was a little struggling going on. It wasn't smooth. So I think there's a little bit of that has to be part of it. Keep in mind, Zach Wilson got in a couple of days later. I don't know how big of a difference that makes. But
if you're a Jets fan, though, you're worried because you seriously haven't seen one highlight of Zach Wilson at practice.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. And not only that, Austin, I think – what's the way to say this? Zach Wilson does not have the resume Trevor Lawrence had in college. There is not the evidence behind Zach Wilson that there was for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence's evidence goes back 7 years. 7 years of unbelievable play. You can find me a way and spin it that Zach Wilson is this and that, and oh my gosh, look at him. Well, there's still not the amount of evidence that shows you that, hey, he's a real deal, he can't miss, all that stuff. What happened was, he got elevated so much during the draft process that all of a sudden it became can't-miss guy. Like Justin Fields, remember? November conversations. Second pick probably when the Jags were sitting there. All of a sudden it flipped to, oh, no, Zach Wilson's a clear-cut favorite. What's wrong with Justin Fields? He's not going to make it. Well, look at the camps. Justin Fields having some good reviews coming out of Chicago. Zach Wilson, not so much so far. But I would be a little bit concerned that almost the Jets you could go back and look and say, hey, the Jets couldn't trust their evaluation because they were almost obligated to take Zach Wilson by the time the draft rolled around because he was so head and shoulders above everybody else. Everybody put him on that pedestal as the number 2 pick. I just say beware of that. I mean, it's maybe they didn't trust their gut. They trust their stuff. Now, here's the deal. I think he's going to be a good player.
Sure.
I think all these quarterbacks in the first round are going to have nice careers in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But I think it's debatable whether Justin Fields should have been picked behind Zach Wilson. I said that even during the draft process.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that when you see arm talent and you see explosiveness and all these adjectives that scouts love to use, obviously Zach Wilson had that. Now, did he play against the best competition? No, he did not. But then I can bring up names like Josh Allen and say, well, what did Josh Allen do in his college career that would make you think he's going to be a certified NFL pro, all-pro for a long time to come? You can't do it. He didn't really have that good of a record as last year at Wyoming, but here we are now with Josh Allen, being one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. So I just think that sometimes depending where they're coming from, the circumstances, he came from BYU, and I'm making excuses for Zach Wilson. Obviously, he's got to practice better. Obviously, there needs to be a change because right now he's not up to par as a starting quarterback for the New York Jets. But I'm not going to buy into the narrative of saying, well, he's having a bad couple weeks, so that means he's not going to do good the rest of the year. Like, I think, give him some time to adjust and let's see what we got here.
Yeah, by the way, I think it's worth noting that Justin Fields has looked pretty good in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
The reports
Trey Lance is looking good.
Totally different. Yeah, we said Trey Lance the other day. So, I mean, you have these quarterbacks. Mac Jones, haven't heard a lot out of Mac Jones. I think there's a lot of people that like him, respect him. That's Cam Newton's job right now, for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you think we could get to Chicago situation where Andy Dalton might not have that job for, maybe no longer than the first couple of games? Based on the play or at least the narrative coming out of Chicago? Well,
it all depends how the Bears are doing. If the Bears are winning games, then you obviously keep Andy Dalton at the starting quarterback. If they're struggling, then you need a change. I'm trying to look up who their first couple of games are against because, they have a pretty solid defense coming back. You have some weapons on offense, and you got an offensive-minded coach who's trying to put up some points. Let's see what we got here. I can't even find their schedule.
We talking about the Bears?
Yeah, the Bears. Who we got, Casey?
Start off at the L.A. Rams.
Okay, that's a rough one.
At home against the Bengals.
Like that.
On the road against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's a toss-up one.
So we got the
if
Rams,
you're any good, you might
Bengals,
beat
Cleveland, and then we got the Lions. So I think that if the Bears go anything worse than 2-2 in those first 4 games, then you're going to see a change with Justin Fields. I think if they go 2-2 or better, then you're going to see Andy Dalton continue.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Again, if he's playing really well, we'll see what happens when the preseason starts. But if he does play well and it looks good, I mean, there's no reason to sit him down. I mean, he's your future. If he's your guy, I mean, Andy Dalton, you know what he is. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields, the ceiling is way up. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. I like the whole class. What's interesting, if you bounce around the NFL, which I didn't really think we'd do this early, but what the heck, we're on the quarterback topic. Sam Ehlinger was finishing up practice today for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, they're that desperate right now.
And Jacob Eason there, too. Mm-hmm. These are 2 young quarterbacks that we've got all these quarterbacks that we could talk about from a youth standpoint. Trevor Lawrence, we think, is going to be there from day one, of course. Zach Wilson, the same. Trey Lance is going to sit down. Mac Jones is going to sit down. Justin Fields could sit down. You could look up in the first month of the year and people are talking about like a guy like Jacob Eason.
Yeah.
Because Indy's good. So, I mean, he could be like, if he does play well, again, I'm talking about if you wanted to predict, you want to make a bold prediction about, hey, who's the guy nobody's talking about now that someone might be talking about on October 5th? Mm-hmm. Jacob Eason or a Sam Ehlinger or somebody like that in Indianapolis, given the fact that they have a pretty good team around them, could be that person. That would be a long shot. But again, if you want to win big money on the odds makers.
As in what, starting for the Colts, or what do you mean odds makers? Like winning?
Well, yeah, winning and playing well. And
well, I'm saying like what kind of bet we making here with the odds makers?
Oh, no, I would just think, hey, if you say, I don't know, if you took all the young quarterbacks and said who's going to have like the best numbers, like who's going to be leading rookie of the year candidate or young quarterback. What is Eason? Eason was last year anyway.
Eason was last year, I think,
so
4th round pick.
Yeah. Ellinger's this year, right?
Ellinger was a 6th round pick
this year.
After this year.
Yeah. So
was he 6th round?
I don't know how you phrase the odds makers of this, all right?
Yeah.
But my point being is nobody at all expected Jacob Eason or a Sam Ehlinger to play, and they might get called on to play.
Now, do you think they're going to be successful when they do play?
Well, but that's my point of the conversation. I mean, we could look up in October in the first few weeks, and they're playing all right because they got a good football team around them. Or it could be an epic disaster because they have a hard start.
Yeah,
Indianapolis got a tough schedule to start.
Yeah, they have a murderer's row. Yeah. I think if it's me, I'm definitely looking at other options. Like, how confident do I feel if I'm the Colts taking on the Rams right away, the Titans right away? Not the most confident.
And they have Brett Hundley, right? Because Hundley's the guy they picked up.
Correct.
But they still haven't made a move. Like, if you were going to make a move for Nick Foles, you would have done that, wouldn't you?
I mean, maybe they're in negotiations right now. Maybe they're trying to make a move, but maybe the price tag's too high. Who knows?
How late can you bring that in? Like, can that be a September bring in and be like, all right, we tried these guys. We don't like these guys. We got to go get a guy.
So I think it depends who the quarterback is. I think if it's Nick Foles, you can wait till the very last second because you're talking about a coach who has coached him before, who uses the same terminology I'm sure that he had in Philadelphia. So I think you have the luxury of waiting it a little longer. If you're trying to go after somebody else that's not accustomed to playing with Frank Reich, then who knows? I mean, the sooner the better, obviously.
Yeah, that's fat. What are they talking about in Indianapolis? We got to go to Indianapolis. Get Indianapolis on line one.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they've got Brett Hundley, Jacob Eason, Sam Ehlinger taking snaps, and they've got all these other quarterbacks that they could go make a move for.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's still early. We're a month away, but it's not really early. It's getting late quick.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating with that team. I would imagine maybe they're waiting to see how Wentz does in the first couple weeks after surgery before saying, okay, we need to do something. This really does look like it's 8 to 10 to 12 weeks, the long end of that comeback. Maybe that's it.
Well, that or you just wait for the Bears to actually cut Nick Foles.
You could.
And then you get him for nothing.
You could. Now, what you run the risk of in doing stuff like that is you run the risk of being desperate around September, whatever. Right? And then it costs you even more because they know you're desperate.
But I'm saying if they were to cut Nick Foles,
if you're right,
then there's nothing just sign him.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to cut Nick Foles, though? He's a $6 million guy. They're going to cut him with, I think, a decent-sized cap hit.
I mean, if you got Justin Fields, you got Andy Dalton, I don't know if they have anybody else. I don't know. Are you to keep Nick Foles on as a third-string quarterback? Or you're not going to practice squad him?
Yeah, I just think you can do – yeah, it's a fair point. I don't know what they're thinking, and that's a good question. But I feel like they're holding a little bit of power with Nick Foles' reasonable number at contract, the experience he has for a team that might be desperate, and Indianapolis is probably team number one on that list. Mm-hmm. But if you keep him around, the longer you keep him around, the better chance you get something in return, in my opinion. And we'll see how the first 3 weeks or the 3 weeks of preseason shakes out. Man, the quarterback stuff's fascinating in the NFL. Deshaun Watson, obviously not expected to play in week 1, but he really practiced for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
He was like a scout team guy. I will say this. I said this before when Watson made it to camp. Mm-hmm. And the thing that just shocks me about Watson is this is a guy that's got a lot of money. Right? Signed a big deal. I'm assuming there was a big chunk of that money, like 60, 70, 80 million guaranteed, whatever it was. And he's coming to camp so he doesn't get fined like 50 grand a day. Mm-hmm. And he's therefore putting the microscope on him. And he's like not doing anything. Then he goes away. I'm surprised that the money was that much of a motivation if from a principal standpoint he didn't want to be there. 50,000 is 50,000. I get it, but the guy's got a ton of money.
Yeah, but you just talked about the principle. It's not so much about losing $50,000 every single day because obviously Deshaun Watson can afford that. What the principle is that you have to write these checks every single day to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
You're essentially buying into their pocket. If you're a player trying to get out, if you're a player that's against the front office, against the organization, the last thing you want to do is give him any kind of respect and any kind of incentive to be like, hey, we're winning this right now because I'm writing you a check for $50,000. So that, to me, is where it comes from.
That's a good call.
Players approach money different ways, but like every player is worried about his money. Every player thinks that, hey, I earned that money. That's my money. I don't want that to go to the bottomless pit that is the Houston Texans.
That's fair. That's a good call. That's a good perspective on it. What is going on with Deshaun Watson? Wow, the QB stuff is so good right now. I send you to break with this, and we'll come back. We talk more about the Jags, by the way, out there today. Did you see what I tweeted last night? I'd never seen this before. I'm leaving work, and a guy's driving a motorcycle with no lights on. But he's got his cell phone flashlight out as his headlight.
Sounds about right, man.
And then, like, this is down the side road. I don't know if you know where our studios are, but it doesn't matter. This is down, like, it's not on, like, beach or something. It's not on St. John's Bluff.
Yeah.
But then he turns on to St. John's Bluff and just goes right through the red light. Now, it's like midnight.
Was it a crotch rocket or was it like a lowrider, like Harley kind of thing?
Well, more